So a couple of weeks ago, I gave you guys a video with 15 players that I think could break out in the 2026 season. You guys really enjoyed that video. So today I'm going to scale that up and we're going to do one different breakout candidate for every NBA team next year. And breakouts can be in different type of ways. You could be somebody that was up and down from the G League and now you're a real rotational player for a team going forward, kind of like Ty Jerome of last year's season. Or you could be a bench player that's turned into a full-time starter, a good role player that's turning into a star, or a star going into a superstar. So the 30 players we're going to list today are going to break out next season in different shape or sizes. And before we get into the video, I want to give a word from today's amazing sponsor, the Farmer's Dog. As someone who never had a dog growing up, I really didn't know too many of the ins and outs when it comes to raising a dog, especially when it comes to their food. And that's why I love the Farmer's Dog, who's educated me the proper way to feed your dog, and that's giving them fresh food. My dog's name is Tucker, and being able to give Tucker a pre-portioned meal plan has made it easy to help my dog maintain their healthy weight. And the Farmer's Dog food is made and tested in facilities with the same safety standards as human food. Food from the Farmer's Dog is gently cooked, which preserves vital nutrients that can help support your dog's immune system function. And the Farmer's Dog is suitable for any dog at any age, because your dog's plan will be personalized to ensure that they get the specific nutrition they need, whether they're a puppy or a senior. And here's the quiz that you can sign up with on the Farmer's Dog. You just put in how many dogs you have, and they personalize it to your dog's name as well, which is really cool. And then you type in your dog's age, you type in what type of dog they are, put in their weight and their body condition, their activity level, how are they as an eater, between very picky to will eat anything. And then you can put in what type of food they currently eat right now. Like my dog is currently eating dry food, any health issues, or a prescription diet. And then they calculate what food is best for you. It's that quick, that easy, and that simple with their recommended plan. And I started giving my dog Tucker the pre-portioned meals, and he has loved it so far. And I'm really excited to see the progress he's going to make over the next few weeks with the Farmer's Dog. And I love that the meals are delivered ready to eat in the packs, that they are already pre-portioned specifically for your dog's needs based on the info you provide during the sign up. I was able to take a quiz, and they made it super easy for me to get the food delivered straight to my doorstep. And dogs at a healthy weight have been shown to live up to 2.5 years longer than overweight dogs. So anything I can do to help my dog maintain that healthy lifestyle, I want to do it. And they also offer a 24/7 support with the best in class customer service as well if you have any questions. And you also get a bunch of stuff in your first box: a cooler bag, a reusable container, welcome packet, and obviously your pre-portioned specialized food. And I've eased in my dog with the kibble and the fresh food, and then we're going to fully transition to the full food going forward, and I'm really excited for it. And the Farmer's Dog is running a great promotion for you guys, my viewers, with dogs out there, to get 50% off your first box of freshly made healthy dog food by using my link in the description or the pinned comment below. Plus, you'll get free shipping and a 24/7 customer support with your order. And you can click the link in the description or the pinned comment, as well as the QR code you could see on your screen now. And thank you again to the Farmer's Dog for sponsoring today's video. So the first player we're going to talk about is going to be the LA Lakers' new signee this offseason, Jake LaRavia. Jake LaRavia was a first-round pick back in the 2022 draft, but took a little bit of time to develop in the NBA. He didn't play too well with the Memphis Grizzlies in his first 2 seasons. He shot the ball a little bit better in year number 3 in 2025, but then got basically salary dumped at the 2025 deadline, essentially getting traded for a second-round pick. And he had a nice end to the Sacramento Kings season: 44% from the field, 39% from 3, averaged 6 points and 3 rebounds. And I thought it looked great on the defensive end of the floor. There's not a lot of guys for the Lakers that aren't already proven commodities, but I do think LaRavia could take a step up next year. He's still only 23 years old, and is going to get some fantastic looks playing with elite playmakers like LeBron James, Luka Doncic, and Austin Reeves. And he's 6'8". He can handle the ball well. I'm not saying he's going to be an all-star next year by any means, but I could see him averaging north of 10 points, be around a 40% three-point shooter, because he's going to get some phenomenal looks and wide open looks next year when he's going to be maybe the 5th most important player on the floor. Okay, so this one was really hard for me because the LA Clippers are so old, and yeah, maybe they could have a 31-year-old breakout like they had last year in Norman Powell. Right now, though, I'm going to go with the Ivica Zubac. Now, Zubac kind of broke out last year as well. In his first season playing 80 games, he was elite. 17 points, 12.5 rebounds, averaged about a block a night. I just think the defense is going to go up another level this year. Last year, you could say he was a top 10 defender. I think there's a chance he could be a top 5 defender, or at least a top 5 rim protector in the sport next year. He had great feel for around the rim, chasing down blocks, closeouts, boxing out, and being a monster on the glass as well. I think Zubac has entered those top 15, top 10 center combos. He could maybe rival somebody like a Bam Adebayo or Domantas Sabonis that are on the outside looking into the top top 5 in 2026. He's going to have Bradley Beal, James Harden, a healthy Kawhi Leonard by his side. He now has John Collins in the front court to space the floor a little bit for Ivica Zubac as well, where he could just be a monster down low. And I think this could be another career year. For the Phoenix Suns, I'm also going to talk about a center, and it is going to be Mark Williams, who got traded from the Charlotte Hornets to the Phoenix Suns on the night of the 2025 draft. Last year, Mark Williams played a career high 44 games. Yeah, he is yet to get over 50 games in the first 3 years of his career, but he's going to be in a new environment right now in Phoenix. He's healthy right now, as we know, because going into year number 3 last year, he was hurt, so he missed a decent chunk of the season to start off year number 3, and he was a very good athlete and offensive player. He averaged 15 points, 10 rebounds, 2.5 assists, about 1.2 blocks a night, but last year, he did not have great defense around him. Now, I'm not going to say the Suns defense is going to be elite by any means next year, but it'll be a lot better than what Charlotte was putting out on the floor. He'll be surrounded by good defenders like Royce O'Neal, Ryan Dunn, Dylan Brooks, and just veteran guys that can help out Mark Williams and maybe improve him on the defensive end of the floor. Jordan Ott's going to be a great coach for Mark Williams throughout next year's season, which is going to be a big year for Mark since it's year number 4. He can get a massive contract extension at the end of his rookie contract. He's going to have a great playmaking guard running the show for him in Devin Booker, because last year LaMelo missed a ton of time and Mark Williams still had 15 points and 10 rebounds on average. So next year he's going to have one of the best guards in the NBA by his side, and I think it could be the best year of his career at 23 years old. For the Sacramento Kings, I'm going to go with a former undrafted player in the 2024 draft, Isaac Jones. Isaac Jones last year for the Kings played 40 games, shot 37% from 3, only averaged 3.5 points, and his playing time was inconsistent last year as well, but I do think he's going to have somewhat of a role for the Sacramento Kings. So this one may be a deep cut. Possibly you want to go with Devin Carter going into year number 2, or maybe somebody like Keegan Murray, but I do think there's a spot for Isaac Jones in the Kings rotation as a good stretch 4. Jones also played very good in the Summer League, in which the Sacramento Kings made it to the championship game, and he could be a big body that could be a good post defender, a solid perimeter defender that's had a meteoric rise going from the G League elite camp to the NBA Combine, being a standout last year, and I think could be a very good player for the Sacramento Kings coming off the bench in 2026. He's not going to be an all-star by any means. He's probably not even going to average 10 points a night, but I do think we're all going to learn his name in some way in 2026. And for the Golden State Warriors, there's not a lot of guys to choose from right now because they don't have a lot of players on their roster, but I think Brandon Podziemski is going to have a bounce back year number 3 next season. He was one of the best rookies from the 2023 draft class 2 years ago. He had a horrible start to year number 2 last year, but was so much better after the All-Star break. He went from 9.5 points to 15.5 points after the All-Star break, 6 rebounds from 5 rebounds, and his true shooting also went from 53% pre-All-Star break to 59% after the All-Star break. The usage went up, the defense was a lot better, and he could be such a Swiss Army knife for the Golden State Warriors, who are trying to win a title next year. It's going to be a big year with Steph, Jimmy, and Draymond getting a year older, and Pods had his moments down the stretch for Golden State last year, but in that 22 game sample size after the All-Star break, he needs to be that throughout the course of an 82 game season for Golden State. I believe he could do it, still just 22 years old, and Steve Kerr definitely believes in him as well to be a mainstay in that Warriors rotation and be a long-term starter in Golden State. Another deep cut here, and that is going to be for the New York Knicks. They're most likely not bringing back Precious Achiuwa this offseason. They do have Mitchell Robinson and Karl-Anthony Towns in the front court, but I do think Ariel Hukporti is going to break out for the Knicks next year. He was actually Mr. Relevant, the last pick in the 2024 NBA draft, and he actually looked really encouraging for the Knicks coming overseas from Germany before the 2025 season. He only played 25 games, but he's very active on the defensive end of the floor. He's a great rebounder, and he's a phenomenal athlete as well. He can catch alley-oops. He can run the floor extremely well for somebody that's 7 feet tall and north of 250 pounds. He didn't put up a lot in the box score last year, so you may not know of Ariel Hukporti unless you watch some Knicks games because he played a lot of garbage time as well, but he could be a good shot blocker, a solid rim protector for somebody that may just end up playing 10 or so minutes a night, but keep him on your radar for the 2026 season. Let's stay on big man in New York here, and let's talk about Day'Ron Sharpe of the Brooklyn Nets. Sharpe is coming back to Brooklyn on a 2-year deal next year, and there's always been talks about a Nick Claxton trade, and there'd be a clear path for Day'Ron Sharpe to be a starting center for this team, who had a career best 8 points per game last year, about 6.5 rebounds, 2 assists, and shot 52% from the field. And if Sharpe can stay healthy, because that's going to be a big thing with him, he can have a very nice connection with their young offensive guards in Nolan Traore, Yegor Joman, and Ben Saraf. And Sharpe runs the floor extremely well. He's very physical inside. He's somebody that averages on a per 36 basis 13 rebounds a night. We may never see him get close to that because he's not a starter in Brooklyn, but just keep an eye eye on him if there's an injury to Nick Claxton, or maybe they're going to even out the two's minutes this year, because Sharp was a solid first round pick, 29th overall back in the 21 draft, still just 23 years old. Last year, they had a revolving door of point guards. You had D'Angelo Russell, you had Dennis Schroeder at times, but I do think the young guys are going to look to get the young big man involved this year. I thought about going with Neemias Queta for the Boston Celtics, who I think can emerge as maybe the best center for this team this season, but I'm just going to talk about Peyton Pritchard. At the beginning of the video, I talked about guys that can go from just really good role players to stars in this league, and that could be Peyton Pritchard this year, who could solidify himself as a top 15 point guard in the league. Last year, with getting his first season above 10 shots per game and playing 28 minutes a night, he won 6 Men of the Year. He averaged 14 points, 4 rebounds, and 3.5 assists. Peyton Pritchard is turning into one of the best three-point shooters in the league as well, shooting 41% from 3 on 8 attempts a night, and this was for a team that won 61 games in the Eastern Conference in 2025. Drew Holiday's in Portland, Jason Tatum's going to be out for the year, Kristaps Porzingis is in Atlanta. Peyton Pritchard is going to need to step up, who could end up being the number 2 scorer on the Boston Celtics next year, next to Jaylen Brown. Pritchard's a few years younger than Derek White as well. He's a phenomenal ball handler, an elite shooter, and could hold his own on the defensive end of the floor. I'm not saying he's going to be an all-star next year. Probably out of everybody we've talked about outside of Ivica Zubac, has the best chance of doing so next year. I'm expecting a big year from the former Oregon guard. Let's talk about a former Brooklyn Net here for the Philadelphia 76ers. The 76ers don't have many power forwards on their roster. It's probably going to be Paul George mostly next year. Gershon Yabusele is in New York. I'm thinking Trendon Watford can be a big breakout player for the Sixers next year. They struck gold with Gershon Yabusele last year, and Watford could definitely benefit with Joel Embiid being healthy next year and having elite scoring guards around him in Tyrese Maxey, Jared McCain, and potentially Quentin Grimes if he resigns. Last year, Watford had a career year, spending his first 2 years in Portland, next 2 years in Brooklyn. He averaged 10 points, 2.5 assists, 3.5 rebounds, shot 47% from the field, and encouraging 33% from 3 as well. If that could trend in the right direction, and Watford being 6'9", 6'10", could be a solid stretch 4 next to Joel Embiid and Paul George, because that can allow you to play Paul George back at the 3, have Watford at the 4, who's physical inside. He can run the floor extremely well, and it could be polished in the pick and roll with Tyrese Maxey and Jared McCain. And this could be a very nice buy low signing for Philadelphia, something they've done fairly recently. You know what? I was probably a year too early, and it didn't work out. I was very adamant that Immanuel Quickley was going to be one of the biggest breakout stars in the NBA last year, and also win Most Improved Player. I was dead wrong, but Immanuel Quickley was banged up a ton, only played 33 games. This is the year that Quickley breaks out. When everybody's out on Immanuel Quickley, everybody thinks the Toronto Raptors should trade him. This is the year he's going to prove to everybody why they gave him over $150 million. Quickley last year shot 38% from 3, averaged 17 points and 6 assists, and them adding Brandon Ingram, who hasn't shown that he's a long-term answer at the 3, at least with his floor spacing with Scotty Barnes and RJ Barrett and Jakob Poeltl, some inconsistent shooters as well. They need Immanuel Quickley's three-point shooting in that lineup. They need his playmaking, and Immanuel Quickley can still be a good off-ball player if they want to run some point Scotty Barnes. He could be a good on-ball point of attack defender, something they could use as well out there with Scotty Barnes, and I think that he could be a big productive player for the Raptors, because everybody's out on him. Like I said, everybody's image of Immanuel Quickley is down next year, but that's the perfect time to buy, and Quickley will finally break out here in year number 6. I just mentioned for the Toronto Raptors, they don't have many good three-point shooters. Neither do the San Antonio Spurs. De'Aaron Fox has been inconsistent. Stephon Castle wasn't great in his rookie year. You don't know what you're going to get out of Jeremy Sohan or Keldon Johnson. So somebody that I think could be an important role player for the Spurs next year, Julian Champagnie. I think he's going to be more involved in the Spurs rotation in 2026 than somebody like Carter Bryant, who was a little bit more of a project player that is obviously going to be a more important player long term. But Champagnie's 24 years old. He had a career year with the Spurs last season. He averaged 10 points, shot 37% from 3 on 6 attempts a night, 90% from the free throw line. What a pickup the Spurs got after the Sixers waived him back in February of 2023, and he's now on a multi-year deal with San Antonio. And for somebody that's 6'8", that could be a stretch 4 next to Wemby, or it can also be a 3 on the perimeter. Could be a solid 3-and-D piece for San Antonio, a team that definitely needs three-point shooting. With all those inconsistent three-point shooters out there, if Champagnie could shoot north of 37% from 3 again, he's going to be a big part of the Spurs rotation, and he also played 82 games last year, an encouraging sign for a reliable player. So last year, we saw one of the biggest trades in NBA history that involved Luka Doncic and Anthony Davis, but somebody else it involved Max Christie, now of the Dallas Mavericks. He averaged 11 points per game for Dallas in 30 minutes a night, shooting 36% from 3 and 86% from the free throw line. He was really good right after the trade, but struggled because everybody was hurt on Dallas, so they needed Max Christie to take 15 shots a night and play almost 35 minutes every single game, and sometimes guard the opposing team's best perimeter player. But now that they're healthy again, with Clay, PJ Washington, Cooper Flagg in the mix, Najee Marshall, there are so many perimeter players, even Caleb Martin, who they acquired, that they could deploy next year and take some of the workload off Max Christie, who's 22 years old. He broke out in some way for the Lakers last year before the trade. There's a reason why the Lakers gave him an extension before last year's season started, and I just think he's going to be a reliable 3-and-D player who's 6'6", still 22 years old, around Anthony Davis, Cooper Flagg, and when he comes back, Kyrie Irving next year, and he could turn into one of the better role players in the league. For the Houston Rockets, I could easily go with Amen Thompson, who I'm sure is going to take a leap, but let's go back on Reed Sheppard, who was one of my favorite prospects in the 2024 draft, the 3rd overall pick out of Kentucky. Had a disappointing rookie season, to say the least. He had that one really good breakout game that you guys are watching right now against the OKC Thunder, which I thought was incredibly impressive. So many guys were injured for the Rockets in that game, and Sheppard shot 59% from the field and had 25 points against one of the best defenses of all time, a team that won the NBA Finals. Sheppard just needs the confidence, and he doesn't need to have a short leash, because if you pull him really quickly, he's not going to be as confident out there, and that's what you need in Reed Sheppard. When he was confident at Kentucky, when he was confident in the Summer League, he could be the best offensive player on the floor at times, and that's what Ime Udoka needs to do. He needs to trust Reed Sheppard next year, who's going to be 21 years old, behind Fred VanVleet, who's eventually going to be the long-term point guard when Fred VanVleet is no longer on this team. And if Sheppard can have a little bit longer of a leash next year, I do believe he's going to be an elite shooter coming off the bench for a Houston Rockets team that wants to win the finals in 2026. We didn't see Trey Murphy make the All-Star game last year. I think there's a chance he can make it this year, especially if Zion Williamson misses time yet again. Last year, Trey Murphy also caught the New Orleans Pelicans injury bug and played 53 games, but he was really good in those 53 games. 35 minutes a night, 45% from the field, 36% from 3, 88% from the free throw line, 21 points, 5 rebounds, and 3.5 assists. He got over $120 million by the Pelicans before last year's season started, and some people were like, it's a little bit interesting. Trey Murphy has struggled with some injuries to start off his career, but he was really good last year. And like I said, if Zion Williamson misses some time, Murphy could average close to 25 points per game next year for the Pelicans, a team that needs some offensive output, that needs some floor spacing. When DeJounte Murray is back, he's sometimes a non-shooter. Zion's a non-shooter. Derek Quinn and Yves Missi are non-shooters. So Trey Murphy's shot creating, ball handling, and athleticism could propel him to being one of the best scoring small forwards in the NBA next year. And like I said, could be a fringe all-star. For the Memphis Grizzlies, I'm going to go with somebody that is still 20 years old, and he was drafted back in 2023. GG Jackson, who had a great rookie year for a very banged up Memphis Grizzlies team. He shot 36% from 3, averaged 14.5 points in 25 minutes across 48 games, even started 18 of those games. Now, last year, GG Jackson's season was kind of over before it started. He had a foot injury that kept him out till January, and sometimes when you don't have that training camp, preseason, or even summer league, it's going to take a little bit of time for you to get ramped up, especially when you're 19 years old in year number 2. GG Jackson was the youngest player in the 2023 draft class. He averaged 7.5 points last year, basically cutting in half what he did in his rookie season. But now that he's healthy, with Desmond Bane in Orlando, they need somebody to step up on the perimeter, and that could be GG Jackson, who's 6'9", physical inside, can get downhill, can hold his own defensively, and is only going to get better with time. And now that he's healthy again, could be a big year 3 breakout for Memphis. When he got traded, it just felt like a Heat culture guy. Davion Mitchell of the Miami Heat is going to be my nomination here. You could definitely go with somebody like a Nikola Jovic or a Khalil Ware, but Davion Mitchell, aka Off Night, was great with the Miami Heat last year. He averaged 10 points, shot 45% from 3 across 25 games, but he's just so good defensively. In transition, at the point of attack, he's exactly who you want defensively in your backcourt, and he also took strides last year as a pick and roll ball handler, as a playmaker, and just a passer in general, because now he's got some really good big men to throw alley-oops, to run the pick and roll with, and Bam Adebayo and Khalil Ware. Now, he got a 2-year extension worth roughly $25 million from the Heat this offseason. I think he could parlay that into a much bigger deal in a year from now, and I think Davion Mitchell is going to break out here in year number 5. He's only been in the league for 4 years with the Miami Heat. He was so good at Baylor, and what we saw in Miami last year was exactly who we thought he could be when he won a national title with the Baylor Bears. He was great against Cleveland in round number 1, and I think he's going to carry that momentum into his first full year with the Miami Heat. For the Charlotte Hornets, I've talked about Brandon Miller breaking out so much that I'm going to talk about somebody new, and I'm going to talk about Moussa Diabate, somebody I was very on about last year as a breakout player, given how good he was on the offensive and defensive glass. He averaged 6 rebounds last year. If you average that out to a per 36, about 13 a night. And the Charlotte Hornets do not have many big men. It's Mason Plumlee, it's Diabate, and it's rookie Ryan Kalkbrenner. Diabate's a good athlete, 23 years old, still plays a little chaotic and needs to have a better feel for the game, but there is a path for him to be the starting center for a decent amount of this season with the Charlotte Hornets. Somebody that was drafted in the second round by the Clippers back in 2022 was a nice flyer pickup by the Hornets in the 2024 offseason. And if LaMelo can stay healthy and navigate Moussa Diabate to the spots he needs to be on the floor, he can have a very productive season for the Charlotte Hornets. 6'11", good athlete, can catch alley-oops and can be a monster on the glass. If Charles Lee can put him in the right positions, this could be a big breakout year for the French center. I've also talked about Paolo Banchero a ton as an Orlando Magic breakout player. So let me talk a little bit about Franz Wagner. I feel like I haven't talked about Franz Wagner enough this offseason. Jalen Suggs is coming back from injury. They acquired Desmond Bane, and I'm as high as you can get on Paolo Banchero. So Franz Wagner last year shot 46% from the field, averaged 24 points per game, 87% from the free throw line. Once again, like he did going from year 2 to year 3, I thought took strides in every department that you could be as an NBA player outside of his three-point shot. Unfortunately, his three-point shot was still sub 30% from the field, about 6 shot attempts a night from downtown, and shot 29.5%, but he's a good playmaker, 4.5 assists, can make good reads in transition. He's a physical rebounder, can get downhill, doesn't turn the ball over that much for somebody with as high of a usage as Franz Wagner has, because he ended up taking 20 shots per game almost last season. But with this Orlando Magic team healthy, and teams will need to respect Desmond Bane and Jalen Suggs on the perimeter, Franz can be somebody that could be getting great looks next year. He had a 57% true shooting percentage before the All-Star break. He also had another abdominal injury last year, just it was plagued over there in Orlando. I think this could also be a big year 5 for somebody that got a rookie max extension last year. So for the Atlanta Hawks here, it's another deep cut. I'm going to talk about Muhammad Gay, somebody I talked about a lot last year in the month of March, where he had an increase in playing time. He is a freak athlete from Washington State. He was drafted by the Charlotte Hornets in the second round of the 2023 draft and was eventually traded to the Atlanta Hawks in a couple corresponding deals. And he signed a multi-year contract with the Atlanta Hawks because he's about 7 feet tall. He's a great athlete, a phenomenal rim runner. And last year in the month of March played the most minutes. And last year in March and April, he averaged roughly 6.5 points, 6 rebounds a night, and was a very productive defender and a good shot blocker as well. We never know how healthy Kristaps Porzingis could be throughout the course of a season. Clint Capella's in Houston, Larry Nance Jr. is in Cleveland, and I know they have Onyeka Okongwu, so Muhammad Gay is kind of like the third string center right now, but he could be a good enough rotational big for the Hawks next year, especially if they suffer some injuries. My number one prospect is going to come in here for the Washington Wizards in the 2024 draft. Alex Sarr. I was so high on Alex Sarr going into the 2024 draft. So last year was a little bit disappointing after an abysmal summer league. He shot sub 40% from the field. He shot 30.5% from 3, averaged 13 points, 6.5 rebounds, but I thought got better and better as the months went along in his rookie season, with kind of at times no real point guard. Now next year, they don't really have a real point guard either. It could be CJ McCollum, it could be Bub Carrington. I would have liked somebody with a little bit better veteran leadership, but last year after the All-Star break, Sarr's true shooting went up a little bit. Still wasn't great at 49%, but he averaged 15 points, 6 rebounds for arguably the worst team in the league, second worst team record-wise, but was a very solid defender and kind of anchored that paint for a team that isn't very good defensively. The three-point shot also was really good in December. It was really good in February, really good in March for somebody that was 19 years old. And you could just see it, right? Somebody that's 7 feet tall, that could be an elite alley-oop catcher, a good screen setter, can space the floor. He had 6+ blocks in a summer league game as well this summer. I think he could be a breakout player for the Wizards and is still, in my opinion, the most intriguing young player on this team. So I'm probably going with my best player so far here for the OKC Thunder, because yeah, you could talk about maybe a Kaysen Wallace, you could talk about a Nikola Topic going into year number 2. I'm talking about Chet Holmgren of the Oklahoma City Thunder. Yes, somebody that only played 32 games in the regular season. Now, there's always going to be an asterisk on Chet Holmgren because he had an injury in his rookie year, did not play a single minute, and last year played 32 games with a hip injury, but I feel like has not even reached his fullest potential as an offensive player in this league. He's still a great rim protector. He shot 38% from 3 last year, yet again after shooting 37% from 3 as a rookie. In the finals, he was a little bit inconsistent against the Indiana Pacers, just shooting 39% from the field, but hey, that was his 6th career playoff series in 2 years, and outside of that series, he has shot over 40% from the field and mostly close to 50% from from the field. He was great from 3 against the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Memphis Grizzlies, and I think as he gets stronger, more physical, and just a more polished offensive game, he's going to be a true unicorn at the center position, and is maybe going to reach that ceiling that we all thought that Kristaps Porzingis would reach one day, and he's going to be very close to Victor Wembanyama. Not as good as Wemby, but pretty close to it. For the Portland Trailblazers, I'm going with a popular most improved player pick next year, Denny Avdija. I thought Denny could break out last year, and he did. He had by far the best statistical season of his career, 17 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, shot 36% from 3, 47% from the field, in just 30 minutes a night. Next year, I want to see Denny play over 33 minutes a night for the Portland Trailblazers, a team that needs somebody to take that top scoring role. DeAndre Ayton's in Los Angeles, Anthony Simons is in Boston. Maybe we see a breakout season from Scoot Henderson or Shaedon Sharpe, 2 players I thought about talking about for this, but Denny could maybe average 20 points per game next year. He's going in that direction, still just 24 years old, and could be a first-time All-Star in 2025, and would look even more impressive if he could propel the Portland Trailblazers to a play-in tournament game next year in a loaded Western Conference. For the Minnesota Timberwolves, they lost a massive rotational player in Nickeil Alexander-Walker this offseason to the Atlanta Hawks. Now, a lot of people are high on Terrence Shannon Jr. next year, but I'm a little bit higher on Jalen Clark, who was the 53rd overall pick for the Timberwolves back in the 2023 draft out of UCLA, and I loved Jalen Clark's defense last year. He also shot 43% from 3, which is really encouraging, but had some very high leverage moments for the Minnesota Timberwolves. In his rookie season last year, as a 22-year-old, he had some phenomenal games on both ends of the floor last year against the Houston Rockets, against the Oklahoma City Thunder in February, the Portland Trailblazers, the Pelicans, some solid defenses at times, and I think could be a really good point of attack defender, something they need if Jaden McDaniels isn't on the floor, because his perimeter defender buddy, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, is in Atlanta. So everybody has their eyes on Terrence Shannon Jr., and I totally get that after the summer league he had. He definitely has a higher offensive upside than Jalen Clark, but I think Clark is just a safer bet to be a rotational player you can rely on in the playoffs. Now, a player the Nuggets couldn't really rely too much in the playoffs last year, Julian Strawther, but I'm all the way in on Julian Strawther in year number 3. He got better and better in almost every aspect of the game last year. Points, efficiency, defense, passing, and rebounding all got better last year. He didn't really play a lot for Denver in the playoffs against Minnesota 2 years ago or the Clippers last year, but they deployed him out there at times against the Oklahoma City Thunder with all the injuries they had, and he shot very well from the field and from 3. The confidence was growing. He was somebody they could rely on, and he's 23 years old. This team is getting deeper and deeper from what they were last year, but I think Strawther could take strides next year. He's a great ball handler for somebody that's 6'6", 6'7", and if that 3-point percentage can get a little bit better on that volume, he's going to be a great backup to Christian Brown at the shooting guard position. And one of my favorite players next year from the 2023 draft to watch after what he did in March last year at times and what he did in the summer league, Bryce Sensabaugh of the Utah Jazz. Sensabaugh was an elite 3-point shooter last year after being a great 3-point shooter at Ohio State, but having an injury going into his rookie year kind of made him not perform too well. Shot sub 40% from the field, sub 30% from 3 for a non-good Utah Jazz team. Now, the Jazz weren't great last year, but Sensabaugh shot 46% from the field, 42% from 3, averaged 11 points per game. He had some games back in his home state of Florida against the Miami Heat and the Orlando Magic, where he had 34 points against the Miami Heat, and one day later, a back-to-back, he had 27 points against the Orlando Magic. And watching that version of Bryce Sensabaugh and what he did in March and in the summer league makes me think he's maybe a top 3 intriguing young player on this Utah Jazz. Like, it's obviously Ace Bailey and Walker Kessler at the top, but after those two, I think I'm more intrigued about Bryce Sensabaugh long-term than somebody like Isaiah Collier, Walter Clayton, Kyle Filipowski, Taylor Hendricks, or Cody Williams. So keep your eye on Sensabaugh next year. Can be a very big breakout for the Utah Jazz. Now, Miles Turner left the Indiana Pacers this offseason, so who's going to step up for Miles Turner next year? People could talk about James Wiseman or Jay Huff. I'm talking about Isaiah Jackson, who did not play at all last year with the torn right Achilles, and who knows how he's going to recover from that Achilles tear, which he suffered in Game 5 of the 2025 season. But Ijax is an incredible athlete. He's a really good rim protector. For somebody that played around like 14 minutes a night behind Miles Turner, now has the opportunity to be the full-time starting center in 2026. I think he could beat out Wiseman and Jay Huff as the main guy. I'm actually intrigued about all 3 of those players in Indiana in that Carlisle defensive system, but I think Ijax has the best chance at being the long-term answer for the Pacers at the 5 spot. You got a guaranteed contract from the Pacers this offseason off the Achilles tear. For the Cavs, it's kind of tough because Mobley, Garland, Allen Mitchell, all those guys have broken out. I don't think that Max Strus or Sam Merrill is going to have like a major volume increase next year. I'm going to talk about Lonzo Ball. Now, Lonzo Ball is not going to be as good next year as he was in 2021 with the Pelicans or 2022 with the Bulls, but I think he can improve a lot from his 2025 season, which was his first season back in 3 years with the Chicago Bulls. I know he struggled sometimes finishing at the rim, and he had a couple injuries, lower body and upper body, but he was a good free throw shooter. He was a good three-point shooter when you take everything into consideration. A good playmaker, can run the floor, and another year removed from a career-threatening injury, Lonzo is going to be in a place to thrive in Cleveland behind Darius Garland, who could miss the start of the season, and Lonzo could be that Ty Jerome replacement next to Donovan Mitchell, who Lonzo can now be the point of attack defender, a good three-point shooter, and a great playmaker, and the Cavs like to run, and so does Lonzo. For the Detroit Pistons, I was either going to go with Ron Holland or Asar Thompson. I'm going to talk about Asar Thompson, who also had a blood clot in his rookie year, which delayed his start to year number 2. Now he doesn't have any distractions going into year number 3, and we could see him get very close to what his brother did last year with the Houston Rockets. Asar is an athletic freak. He's an anomaly and a top athlete in the NBA, so he could just be such a fun run and gun player for the Detroit Pistons. Last year he averaged 10 points and 5 rebounds, but I think he can make an all defensive team in 2026. He only played 59 games with that delayed start in 2025, and I'm so high on Asar, who's 22 years old, a top athlete, could be a great player around the rim. If he could just be a slightly better three-point shooter, man, he could be a hell of a player one day. I was really happy when the Milwaukee Bucks brought back Ryan Rollins this offseason, somebody that I thought took strides last year in year number 3. He was a second-round pick by the Hawks back in the 2022 draft, then was sent to Golden State, then Washington, then signed with the Milwaukee Bucks in the 2023 offseason. Didn't play at all for them in 24, but last year was kind of a season saver at times for the Milwaukee Bucks. He shot 40% from 3, averaged 6 points. He was a good backup point guard before they got KPJ behind Damian Lillard, and he's somebody that could defend as well. He's a good point of attack defender, a good perimeter defender that can move quick laterally and hold his own on that end of the floor. And the Milwaukee Bucks need somebody to break out next year with Damian Lillard no longer on the team anymore, and that could be Ryan Rollins. He's not going to be a 15 plus point per game scorer, but he can average close to 10 points per game and give them close to elite level defense. And the last player I'm going to talk about, somebody I've talked about a ton this offseason, but Matas Buzelis. I think Matas could end up being one of the best rookies from the 2024 draft class and could maybe have the best sophomore season from anybody in that class. He was so good in the second half of last year's season on a team that was kind of all over the place at times. They completely changed their team around the deadline, trading away Zach LaVine, getting guys like Kevin Huerter, Zach Collins, Trey Jones, and I thought Buzelis, who was a teenager at times last year, didn't miss a step whatsoever. He was encouraging as a three-point shooter. He can get to the rim and get to the free throw line, finish at the free throw line as well. The usage, the shots are going to go up this year, and if he could just look as good as he did at times defensively last year, like I said, could be a top player from the 2024 draft class in their sophomore season. So that is gonna be it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you agree or disagree with your favorite team's nomination that I brought up in this video, and if there's somebody you think that can break out next year that I didn't talk about, let me know down below. And thank you again to the Farmer's Dog for sponsoring today's video. I highly recommend checking them out. Link to them will be in the description below and the pinned comment as well, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.